H22 swap's been doing great. Pretty much daily drove it all summer. No major problems except for the oil cooler O-ring. It was just too hard and it was slightly, it was seeping. I was getting a few drips every week. So I just replaced that. Right now what I'm going to be doing is replacing the stock clutch hardline in the rubber portion down here with the braided one that goes from the master straight down to well, it's going to go right to here. And I'm doing that mainly to eliminate the clutch damper in there, and just because that rubber line is almost 30 years old now. What I'm using are these ends, these thread converters. I'm not sure I'm going to need these, we'll see. Some old banjo bolt, this is for the master, and then just a universal pre-built braided line. Alright, there's the line installed. Well, I'm sure it's possible to get the old one out while this is all in the car. It's too much of a pain for me, so I'm just got it zip tied away. I put a bolt with the crush washers through it to stop any fluid that's still there from leaking out. Here's this end. So I did have to wind up using one of these thread converters because the hard line that goes in there is 12 by 1, and these banjo bolts are 10 by 1. Just threads in there, step down the thread size. These are slightly too long. I had to shave like a 1/16 of an inch off it, roughly. So the paint on this thing is crap. It had been resprayed sometime before I got it. It's just like a Mako job, so it didn't last very long. The car underneath is clean, there's no rust or anything, but I do have rust on these, well, just on the left rear. Got some right here, and we got this starting. I think it's letting a little bit of water into the trunk. I think I got a little bit behind here. What's that? So the next thing I'm going to do is basically weld a new steel there. I'm not sure if I'm going to repaint the car or just primer it and do wrap. I did a little experiment about 2 years ago. This is wrap. I took the roof down and primered it and put the wrap on it, and it's held up pretty well. I haven't done anything to it other than just wash it occasionally. So I might wrap it or I might paint it, I'm not sure. The first steps is to take care of this rust. Alright, there's some progress with the rust. So I haven't tackled this yet, just kind of peeled it back to see what was there. It's not too bad. I think I just maybe take a chunk out like that and weld a new material. But I won't know for sure until I actually cut it open and see how far the corrosion goes. Here's one of the big holes. Yep. It's black right now because I already put a rust converter on it. So it just needs to be, put some 415 over it, patch up the actual hole. A little bit there. Got some small rust starting around here just from an accident. Got hit in the rear on the side at some point. Another hole here. Same thing, just put rust converter on it. So just gonna patch it. It's not, these aren't structural, so as long as it doesn't leak, I'm happy with it. And I examined over here real close and I don't see any rust. Alright, here's how I keep my 415 alive when I don't use a whole can. Normally I just punch a hole in the top of the tin, pour out what I need, and just use some Honda Bond. Seal the hole. That seems to work pretty good. I can just punch another hole and it doesn't dry up in there. Alright, these areas are done. Since they're hidden, I don't really care about them very much, so I just cleaned up the rust, did the rust converter, some 415, then I just put a fiberglass patch on each side, smooth it over a little bit with some seam sealer, and a little bit of spray paint. There's a little hole right here, same over here. Should be fine. And here's this. I already cut out the bad spot that was really weak. All this is still strong. So now I'm gonna make a piece that follows this. And after I have that, then I'll make the little triangle piece. There it is, kind of tacked in place. Took 3 pieces, one long one here, triangle one, and then a little filler piece right here. It's pretty thin once a keyhole. In some spots where I've kind of already ground it down a little bit. So I'm just gonna finish fully welding it, then I'll smooth it all out, see what it looks like. Done with the steel part. So I got it pretty close, but it's a little bit low in some spots, or most of it's low. That's kind of by design because I'm not good enough to actually make it perfect in steel. So when I'm ready to do the actual final bodywork, I'll use body filler to get it all perfect. Just laid some 415 in here. After that, some seam sealer. And once it's off the lift, I'm gonna have to pull the interior panel and see if I can get in here from behind and spray with like primer or whatever I can, basically. I'll work on this next, and also I think I'm gonna do at the same time, I'm gonna plug or shave my antenna hole. Right, I've been running about a week in the rain, and the leaks are pretty much gone. The passenger side taillight has a tiny bit of seepage, but that's just a seal. I can take care of that. But yeah, at some point I'll actually do the correct body work to actually make this look good. Because right now it's rough as shit. There's the antenna. I pretty much just ground it down to metal, welded it in, the plug, and just painted over it, left it like that. Alright, time to sort out the suspension. For years I've had some Ibach Pro kits on there for springs and some Coney orange dampers, which are just like the cheapest ones they had. And it rides good, but not height adjustable, and I wanted to just kind of upgrade it. Got some Fortunatos in the last Black Friday sale. And in the rear, the lower shock bushings are torn, and basically replacing the control arms with these things. I tried to find, I wanted to buy a hard race, because they have, the trailing arm bushings are pretty hard race, but they're out of stock. And just looking at the product pictures, I think these might actually, this could be made by the same people, same supplier. Here's my old, or one of my old toe arms. You can see the bushing pretty much disintegrated, poly, at least on this side. And what I think the problem is when the suspension moves to travel, it doesn't just go up and down, it does this a little bit too. And I think just the fact that the bushing is even with the sleeve cause it just kind of get pinched too much and it just disintegrated. If you look on these, there's a step there from here down to here. So I think these will do better. Alright, to get these lower shock bushings out, I'm using this ball joint press. And to make room for it, I actually had to knock this stud out temporarily. Alright, to reinstall it's a little bit different. Still using things for my ball joint press. I'm just using a bolt through them to pull it in. Went in fairly easy. All done installing them. Fit went good. Here's the rear. While I've got it up in the air, you can see the header hangs just a little bit lower than the skid bar thing here. So I'm going to add some 1/2-inch spacers to this. That should drop it down enough. You can see this one tube, the right tube, hangs a little bit lower than the other tube. So I got to account for that one. One last thing to do for the suspension. Since the H swap, this tower bar hasn't really fit perfectly. You can see this little mark here. That's actually from the oil cap. It would hit it occasionally. And actually, as a temporary solution, I shaped this down. But now, this adjuster on this side just barely touches it, and I decided I'm just gonna remake it, make it better. So far, I'm just making templates for the towers. Alright, here's stage 1 of the new tower bar. Stage 2 is making the triangle part that ties in with the firewall. Alright, here it is. It's the last test fit before I paint it. I'm going to paint it the same wrinkle gray as the valve cover. Finally complete. So for the firewall mount, on the last bar it just bolted straight to the firewall, or this upper cowl portion anyways, and removing it was kind of annoying because once they hit the lip here, you kind of have to play with it a lot to get it out. This time I made a separate piece that bolts there, and this bolts to that, and it's much easier to get it on and off. Plenty of room with the oil cap now, and actually the last one was also, you can see it was resting on this filter, so that's fixed as well. The suspension is done. Last thing I'm going to do on the cord right now is a Hasport rear mount. We'll see how I like it. I got the soft as urethane, but if it's on daily drivers, I don't like it too stiff, so we'll see.
Several months later.
Alright, so it's been quite a few months since I filmed that last bit. I think this thing's come back apart. So I was daily driving it and I started hearing a noise somewhere in the front related to speed. Thought maybe it was something in the trans, so I swapped the trans with another one that I had, and it wasn't the trans, but it doesn't bug me too much because it gave me a chance to actually reseal this thing properly. So when I put it together last time, I didn't put I didn't do any of the internal seals, or like the seal here. So I bought a kit from Synchrotech. Came with this boot, seal in here, input shaft seal, and new axle seals. So I just finished putting this back together with all that stuff. And aside from switching back to the M2B4, I'm gonna take care of the final oil leak this thing has. See, I get a few drips between oil changes, and I know it's not the front main seal or any of that. It's the O-ring between the oil pump and the block. Unfortunately, you gotta take all of this apart to get to that. I'd already fixed one with between the oil cooler and the block. And I think when I have the pan off, just because I can, I think I'm gonna make it like a small baffle system in it. Also, while I'm changing the trans, I'm gonna put this lightweight flywheel back in. This was originally on the H22 when I had it in the Prelude, and I really didn't put much mileage on it, so it's pretty new. Same with the clutch. Usually bought this on Rock Auto. It's supposed to have the O-ring for the oil pump. Yeah, so once I got all apart, it looks like the main leak was from this, which seals the front case of the rear balance shaft, which are all kind of hard. This is the main one for the oil pump, between it and the block. This one's also hard. This is the front balance shaft, that one was just starting to seep. So, yeah, and they're kind of flattened too. This is for the dipstick, this one was okay. Yeah, this was the main one, but they were all starting to go, so it's pretty marginal. It just gotten worse and worse over time. So I'm glad I went ahead and took care of it now. Yeah, so I got the old clutch system out, but even with the engine out, it wasn't that easy. I had to cut in a few parts. It made a mess. Got the trans on. It's all good to go. Now it's going back in. I was in a hurry last night to get this done so I could get the Honda bot drying. So I didn't film what I was doing, but basically I kept filling the pan up with some cardboard inside and just kept trimming the cardboard till I got it fitting well. And then I had a template, cut that out of steel, welded it in the pan, and I'll throw some pictures in because I did take pictures. And I think what I'm going to do is I'll put this template, scan it, and I'll put it on the website in the document section. It's just a street car, doesn't really need extra baffles in the oil pan, but I've never made it before, so it's a good chance to see what it's like.